you're essentially rebooting your company leadership every 2.5, 3 years, and so you never go anywhere. If you simply have a mid-level salesperson, he's just going to execute the global model. He's not going to invent the next new thing. Okay? So what you need in these companies is somebody who's incredibly entrepreneurial. Okay? Who will take those global assets and things and figure out how to adapt it to India, and doesn't wait for approval from headquarters. Because if you ask for approval, you won't get it. Okay? So it's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission. So you need a very different type of leader in these things. The other thing, if you see all these companies that have done well in India, they've had continuity of leadership. You know, in Cummins in India, I was there for 7 years. In Microsoft, I was 7 years. My successors have spent even longer. You take Nokia, Shiv Kumar was there for about 8 years. Any company that has got its act together has had continuity of leadership. Okay? Because it takes, nothing in India gets done in 3 years. Okay? It takes 5, 7, 8, sometimes 10 years to build something substantial. And if you're a kind of fellow who's in a hurry to get to the next job, and the next job is outside India, it's never going to happen. So your whole sort of choice of leader, your HR policies have to be very different. You can't rely on getting talent, hiring talent from the market, because then what you get is a very mercenary culture. Okay? Because you hire people, the people inside get unhappy because you're paying more for that guy, and you know, it's just a miserable, miserable thing. I know this because I made all those mistakes and I write about it in the book. So you have to have a very strong culture of hiring junior people from colleges and promoting them from within and growing your own leaders. Most companies don't get that right. So these are the 3 fundamental reasons. I need to move faster. Okay? Then of course there's this obvious question. Hey, everything you've said sounds pretty logical. When I go to boardrooms in the US and Europe and say this, they all say this. But you come back 2 years later, nothing has changed. Okay? So there's something very hardwired in these companies that says, even though they may intellectually understand this, they find it very difficult to do these things. They find it very difficult to change. So a lot of my thinking focused on why is it so hard? And what I realized is it's so hard because it's so unnatural. You're asking people to behave in ways which are so fundamentally different from how they've operated, right? In a global company, you prioritize countries based on the size of their revenues, okay? So India and Italy will be treated the same. Now there's nothing in common between India and Italy here. Nothing. But they'll be treated exactly the same from our budgeting, investments, measurement, all those things. So what we're saying is no, some countries have far more potential, you need to prioritize them and treat them differently. Okay? What we're saying is, hey, your global products may or may not work out here. They may work at the top, but as you come down in the economic pyramid, you have to develop local products. And you can't invent them in America. You have to have local development teams, and they will, have a feel for the market. And so what does that mean? You have to not only have a local development team, you have to empower them to do things very differently, like that Unilever water purifier. Okay? And if you're unwilling to do that, you're never going to succeed. But for most companies, that's very threatening. For the R&D head, this is the worst idea they ever heard. Okay? Because you're going to have these guys who are going to do their own thing. If they will probably fail, but if they succeed, it will cannibalize and disrupt my existing business. Okay? So there are many, many reasons why people get very threatened by this shift, which is why they do nothing. And so unless a company is lucky to end up with a CEO who says, I don't care, we need to win in these countries, I'm going to drive the organization in this direction. And plainly, everything we achieved in Cummins was because Tim Solso encouraged and gave us a little bit of protection to do these things. Bill Gates gave me the protection when he was there at Microsoft. Okay? So if you don't have a CEO who says, just go for it and I'll manage the unhappiness, it will not happen. And this is very, very rare. Okay? In 99 out of 100 CEOs have never lived in an emerging market. They do only tourism. The company jet lands in the morning, they come to nice places, give a media interview, and then they leave. That's not really understanding the country. So they are not the ones who are able to make these kinds of calls. You look at the boards of these companies, again, they don't have people who lived and worked in emerging markets. And therefore, I'm relatively pessimistic about the prospects for most global companies making this shift. Now I'm going to shift to a very different topic, okay? Now, I was going around the world and I was getting the usual questions. How do you deal with corruption? Is it possible to be clean in a corrupt country like India? You know, why do you have so many criminals in politics and all that? And then one guy asked me the really most important question, which has got me thinking in a completely different way. He says, your advice to companies is fine, which is, hey, deal with the chaos, adapt, okay, manage. Okay, we are all very good at managing. But at one point, don't you think there is the risk that the chaos will conquer India? And for a multinational company, that's fine, yeah, you pick up your bags and leave. But where are all you Indians going to go? Okay? So why aren't you doing more to fundamentally make India a less chaotic place? And it really got me thinking. And I realized what a dysfunctional society we've become, right? I just put these things up. First of all, our poverty is desperate. Okay, we don't fully realize it. I didn't realize it because when you're working in a job, full-time job, you don't have time to think about all this. You wake up in the morning, rush to work, you're focused on the job, you're focused on family, barely have time to breathe. You may read and see a little bit from news in the media, but it's not something that you experience. Now I have more time. I've experienced this reality. What is it like to live on 120 rupees a day, which is what the vast majority of our people live on? And I actually went and spent 2 days living with a tea leaf picker in Kunur about 2 months ago. They earn 140 rupees. So I experienced what can you do on 140 rupees. Child has malaria, ICU, bill is 9,000 rupees. How are you ever going to do it? Your choice is twofold. Let the child die or leave it in God's hand, or go to the money lender. Now you have to pay what? 40-45% interest. Okay? So you'll never come out of that whole chakkar. So that's that. Half our population without toilets. Okay? It's disgusting. Not only that, we saw it 1 week ago. It's also life-threatening. Okay? These 2 ladies have gone to relieve themselves. They got killed. Not one of us can drink our tap water. Okay? So I don't think in any city you can open the tap and safely drink it. In Bangalore, India's IT city, garden city, every street corner is a garbage dump with rats and stinking, and we're waiting for the bubonic plague. Okay? This is a really bad place. But what have we done? We've learned to cope with it. How do we cope with it? You retreat. Okay, you go into apartment complexes, gated societies. I was talking to Ajay this morning. No electricity, no problem. Buy a Cummins DG. Okay, we're building a house, small home in Bangalore. There's no water there because people are using tankers. No problem. Drill a bore well. Okay, but in Bangalore, in Koramangala, the bore well, you don't hit water till 1,000 feet. Okay, it's seriously deep. What else do we do? All our children go to private schools. If you fall sick, you don't go to a government hospital. We've completely withdrawn from the public space. And obviously then people start saying, why pay taxes, why vote, etc. And therefore we've really created a very bad problem. And it goes on, badly damaged economy, rampant corruption, toughest place to do business, questionable rule of law. Why am I in Pune? Now I'd like to say it is for this book club. No. I'm here for a legal matter. There's a crook who's occupied my house, he's not paying rent. I filed a case to evict him. 18 months the case has not been heard. And I laugh at this country which talks about, we're the world's largest democracy, and unlike China, we have the rule of law. Okay? What rule of law? And it goes on. Even in the new government, which many of us are excited about, 1/3 of the MPs have criminal cases against them. Okay? That's just reality. So, it's time to recognize this and acknowledge what we are. There's the idea of a failed state. We think of Afghanistan as a failed state. India is certainly not a failed state, but we're a flailing state. Okay? And there are consequences if we don't intervene now and do more to get things back on track. And we can't just outsource this to politicians. That's my point. So, when I go around the world giving this talk, they said, Ravi, this sounds